Oane Visser, he's an associate professor from Erasmus University in Rotterdam, and his research interests lie in new digital technologies, large-scale farming, and also the financialization of agriculture. And for today, he will actually tell us more about the current developments in agriculture technology and also connect it to bigger issues that we're seeing right now in our society. So please give a big applause for Oane.
Thank you for the invitation to speak here. It's a nice setting here in the theater. I've been doing, when I was a PhD student, I was doing improvisation theater. So it's nice to be back on more like a theater stage rather than a lecture room. So, yeah, here's mine. So I will talk especially about the processes of digitalization technology in the form of new digital technologies which are increasingly entering the space of agriculture and food. Technology is sometimes seen as a solution to a lot of problems which are kind of haunting agriculture in the Netherlands and lots of other countries. Yesterday, a new report was, as many of you will know, a report was presented about the nitrogen crisis, and we had a very heated summer, both in terms of temperature and in terms of farmer protest. Yeah, there is a lot of debate about the challenges which agriculture is currently facing, and a big part of that debate is whether, yeah, new technologies can be a solution to address the problems, and especially the environmental problems of agriculture. So the current food system, both here in the Netherlands, in Europe, but globally also, faces a lot of problems, mounting problems, which become more and more aware, not only to scientists, but also increasingly aware to farmers themselves, to the broader audience. So we have a whole range when we think about the environmental challenges. We have water and soil pollution. We have soil degradation. Part of my research was in Russia and Ukraine. There you have the very fertile black soils, but even they are not as fertile already anymore as they once were. They seem like infinitely fertile. And the same is for the most fertile ground in, for example, Flevoland, which is diminishing. So then we have the large footprint of global food transport. Yeah, we are importing strawberries in winter from Morocco and Kenya, and flowers. Recent studies just last year showed that we have been underestimating even that footprint. It's bigger than we thought. Then there is decreasing effectiveness of chemicals. Yeah, we see especially in the US where there has been much more even use of chemicals than in the EU, that there is growing weed resistance of all kinds of weeds. Resistance against those chemicals is increasing. We see the rise of animal diseases. Just this week, it was announced that all the chickens, yeah, the poultry has to be locked up because the new bird flu risk, and it's just it's just calmed down, and the new diseases are already coming, yeah, and we have had the discussion about corona and animal diseases and that interlinkage. So there are risks also to not only to animals and the environment, but also to human health. Then there are the pathogens like the oil sector in southern Italy. One of my PhDs is doing research there. Hectares and hectares and kilometers of oil, the oil production of in the south, where trees are destroyed by pathogens, and monoculture is one of the reasons for that. So we see, of course, the debate about agriculture as a large contributor to climate change. It's estimated that roughly some quarter of global greenhouse gas emissions are originating from agriculture, and especially from the livestock sector. And then, of course, the nitrogen crisis. So those are the environmental challenges, but then we have also the economic challenges, yeah? So we have had, after the World War, the building up of the European and the US food system, where food was increasingly cheaper, and we have seen that we as Dutch citizens over the past decades, as a percentage, had to spend less and less money on food comparatively, yeah, to other costs, which is a luxury. It is very much the question whether that is sustainable, yeah, for the coming years. And we see that, yeah, all kinds of efficiencies have been introduced, and the profits have been squeezed out, and the margins for most of the farmers have decreased. So we see a lot of farmers complaining, yeah, about we have to introduce even more regulations, but from which money should we do that? Because many already are below the minimum wage. At the same time, there are also some farmer millionaires, so there is also this problem of inequality. But economically, at least for the past 10, 15 years, there has been growing concern also in this area, yeah? Is this model of conventional agriculture, is it economically even viable? And then it's socially, yeah. There was also, as citizens, we had the security of oversupply even of, especially in Europe, yeah, of oversupply of food and cheap food, yeah. And then like in 2006, 2007, there was this major hike in food prices. Maybe you remember that. And then there were all kinds of food protests, yeah. In Madagascar, a government fell because of that. There was this tendency of land grabs, which I'll discuss. So food suddenly wasn't so low priced anymore, and not so, and stable prices started to vanish. Then we re-entered a relatively short period of more stability. And now with the Ukraine crisis, we see increasingly again, yeah, that food prices, not only in the global south, not only in developing countries, but also in the West are starting to rise, yeah. And it seems that those crises in food, this food crisis become a kind of the new normal, yeah. That it's hard to talk anymore about events, incidents. It is becoming more of a pattern, yeah, this huge volatility. And that's all also related to our system of how we do food, like conventional, large scale, with very much export driven. When we had the previous food crisis, like 2006, 2007, yeah, the kind of on the global level, the response was to cope with this volatility, this rising food prices, the instability in the food system. The way to cope was that basically in the global north, yeah, here we kind of postponed measures forward, did some like window dressing kind of actions, and there was a big move to, yeah, say, okay, the margins are going down, environmental problems, we just moved to the global south where there is supposedly lots of abandoned or unused land, yeah? And labor is cheap, land is cheap, so there was the idea we will feed the world by moving there. So we had this big trend of transnational land investment or land grabbing, which I studied and many colleagues over the world. And basically it was the same model, just spreading out, yeah? Basically also exporting the problems to other areas. And that was often unsuccessful, so there were a lot of biofuels which appeared not to be a viable model. There was a mismatch often with crops and agroecological conditions, rural assistance, corruption, so lots of reasons why a lot of projects failed. So now we are hitting another food crisis, yeah? So the move to the global south appeared not to be a super good solution. So now the new kind of magic bullet is technological innovation, yeah? Both in meat, etc. But I will focus on the digitalization of agriculture as the new hope. There's a lot of talk about an emerging or already ongoing digital revolution in agriculture, especially in the global north, here in Europe, the US. But there is also very much the idea that the green revolution, which was taking place in the global south in the 50s and the 60s, introduction of pesticides and fertilizer, basically, and some tractors sometimes. That didn't take off really in Africa, and now the idea is that this huge potential of Africa and some parts of the global south could suddenly be brought very actively in production with a new green revolution, but then this time a digital green revolution. Yeah? So this is all built on the progress, technological progress, which has been happening in the past 10, 15 years in terms of internet, not just something we encounter in our computer, but which kind of enters and penetrates our life through all kinds of sensors. Yeah. So that has also been happening in agriculture. You have sensors mounted to milk robots, onto cows in the soil, on combines, and big progress in terms of precision with satellites, the rise of smartphones. These are key developments which now potentially at least enable this kind of new digital agrarian revolution. I'll just show you a few pictures to give you a sense of new developments across the food chain, and then I will zoom in more in the farm, on the farm side. So in farming, we see the appearance of robots, also harvesting robots. Here a pepper robot developed by research from Wageningen. Lots of this horticultural robots, they are still in a trial state, but some are already a bit in the commercial state. Then there are increasingly drones are used to monitor diseases in crops here across the field, sometimes to spray pesticides. Then on the level of food trade, global food trade, you see that food traders like Cargill, those big transnational food traders, they increasingly try to have a global overview and almost real-time overview of all the food streams across the world. Yeah? And that is being enabled by new technologies. Blockchain is increasingly introduced. Then in retail, we see, this is still rare, but it's in California, a US pizza bot which prepares your pizza. This is already more common, automated checkout in supermarkets, and this is also already starting to become quite common, the platform economy, food delivery. Then zooming in a bit more into farming, the farm level. This new digitalization of agriculture goes by different names. It's sometimes called smart farming, precision farming, digital farming, the different definitions. And I think it will be interesting to show you a bit of the view of the proponents of digital agriculture, how it's seen by some of the tech providers, and then I will go into some of the other sides, more critical sides, the limitations.
This one or this one?
Yeah, this is fine, So there will be two very short little movies. These are basically ads by KPN, yeah, the telecom company. Oh, there's no. It worked so well. Just. Ah, yeah. So that was the first one. And then another one also by the telecom company, KPN. Very brief one. Unfortunately, for the foreigners, it's just in Dutch. We cannot explain.
Hebben wolken 's morgens rode randen, altijd is er wind en nat voorhanden.
Nou, nee hoor. Een zuidwestenwind kracht 3 en maar 10% kans op neerslag. Prima weer om te zaaien.
Internet net zo mobiel als jij.
Maar het zijn wel mooie wolken.
Voor generatie KPN.
Maybe someone who has an impression, a response about what kind of picture of digital agriculture you get, or what kind of emotions or feelings that it evokes. Any, To me, Annie? Yeah.
Like everything is like you don't have to do much. Like as a farmer, drones just fly. You have mobile apps, but everything is like working well. You just need like good internet connection, and everything is solved.
Yeah, it's like you can just stay in bed. Normally, as a farmer, you have to go up at 6 o'clock, and it's cold and short night, and now you just lie in bed with your tablet, and a lot of work is done for you. Yeah, so there's the idea of convenience, and also, yeah, the second movie. What kind of a message does it send about agriculture, digital agriculture, the use of smartphones in response? I think it's very much, to me, it gives this idea of precision, yeah? So the farmer, it's all intuition-based, and it's also an old farmer, like this idea, it's outdated knowledge, yeah? And then you have the digital world at your fingertips, and suddenly you get the super precise answers, yeah? And you basically, the farmer knowledge is also a bit kind of discredited here in my perspective, yeah? So that brings me to two questions about these new technologies. So we see some of the proposed benefits here, but will it likely be to the benefit of the farmer? Yeah, is it really like that? Like more productive? We have the problem with a lot of young people not wanting to go into agriculture. Are you now suddenly thinking like, okay, I leave my office and I'm going to the field to become a farmer? And is it good for sustainability? Yeah, I will focus mostly at the first, a few things about the last, because the other speakers, I think, will talk more about the last point, about sustainability. So I will focus more on the social, economic sides, political sides of it. So the question is there, yeah, about precision, imprecision of these new technologies, empowerment, or is it disempowerment? This is the first topic I will discuss, and then I will go into the aspect of the data, yeah, data surveillance and the risk of that and data capture. So I will focus a little bit on one aspect of agriculture technology because there are so many, yeah, and that's in arable farming, where there is this currently increasingly popular idea of technology of yield mapping. What is that? So the idea is that data becomes very central to the work of the farmer, say a farmer who has potatoes or wheat, say. And the idea is that before you start planning, yeah, in the site, you base your work not on your experience from the last year, but on prescription maps generated by software, yeah, which give all kinds of very precise advice of how much you should apply, how much fertilizer, of how much seed in a particular spot in your field, yeah? So supposedly very precise, and then you do different actions across the season, yeah, along the circle, like seeding. And then as a farmer, what you do some action, but every time, ideally at the same time, you gather data, yeah? So you're both doing your agriculture work and sending data into the cloud, yeah? So you're soil sensing while you're seeding, you're fertilizing, and then collecting also data. And then on top, I will focus most on that. Once you are harvesting the wheat, for example, with the combine, that combine registers how much per square meter you harvest, yeah? So you can see like, oh, I got a lot of grain from this part of the field, and I get a lot less from this part. So why is that? And then ideally the computer can do its work and give you advice for the next year, like you should have done it otherwise, yeah? And for next season, you have to apply a bit more fertilizer there or do other treatments, yeah? So that is the idea. So the idea that you become, every year you become more and more precise based on the data. Then, what is the practice based on the research I've done with 2 colleagues? Farmers in the Netherlands, for example, but also in the UK and the US, they widely report a lot of inaccuracies in this technology of yield mapping. Yeah, so there also interviews with the designers of those devices. They admit that's very realistic. There could be an error rate of 10%. Yeah, so how would you go into a car which has a 10% error rate? Yeah, of not spotting a red light or so. 10% can be also the margin of, yeah, for a farmer, if you have 10% more production of making a good profit or not making a profit at all, yeah? So 10% is quite a lot. So, and here is a quote. Oh, by the way, there is a map, yeah, generated about the field there in the bottom top. And then you can see like the green spaces, there is a lot of yield, so that's good, and red is bad, so you should do something different, yeah? But then there is a farmer who says that, here's a quote, "It's strange, the quicker I drive during harvesting, the higher the final yield per hectare," yeah? So suddenly, because he starts driving quicker, per meter there is more harvest, which shouldn't be like that, of course. So he says the manufacturer should actually go back to the basis and fix yield mapping. If the basis is not good, fine-tuning is of little help. So there's been a lot of fine-tuning, increasingly nice maps, etc., all kinds of functionalities. But if the data, yeah, is not good, then that doesn't help a lot. Here is another quote, but the gist of it is that it becomes very much real-time, very quick data gathering, but also errors very quickly are generated, yeah? Lightning fast. So real-time is nice, but it should be real-time accuracy, yeah, not real-time errors. Okay, how much? Okay, so driving speed, crop, weather, etc., they all affect accuracy. So what we found is that basically it's not just the technology which ensures accuracy, you just plug in and do the work. There is a key role for the farmer in doing that, like calibrating sensors, having his or her own experience, like thinking, hey, this couldn't be true, I have to look into the data, I have to change the settings. So a key role of the farmer, yeah, to make digital technology in general accurate, yeah. So, and that is in contrast with the idea of that technology's kind of inherent, super accurate functions, yeah. There was one farmer who said, yeah, the combine tells the truth. That was a more optimistic farmer, some more negative. And it also, it kind of problematizes the negative view of the farmer, like in one of those movies, like that the farmer is kind of the weakest component in agriculture, in digital agriculture, yeah? So farmers have an active role. They have to develop a feeling for error, what to look for when calibrating and using technologies. Yeah. So going to the last part, there is a danger of being precisely inaccurate. Yeah, it looks very precise, but there are all kinds of errors hidden underneath. And then you are put at ease, like you're so impressed as a farmer, okay, that should be good. And if you then not go to the field anymore to look yourself, be critical, that could increase the failures, yeah, the chance for risks. So there is the danger of what we call a precision trap, that you are so excited about the idea of sophistication. There are not anymore checks and balances, like looking, weighing, controlling, just with analog means, yeah? The other aspect is data capture and surveillance. The proponents say there is a lot of empowerment of the farmer, the world at his or her fingertips, yet farmers are not massively embracing lots of new digital technology, a few selected ones. So one of the proponents said, it's strange, like everyone thinks digital agriculture is sexy except the farmer himself, yeah? So you have all those tech providers, consultants, they think that this is the future. And the farmers are saying, ho, ho. So the question is, who will really benefit of this data-driven agriculture? Definitely a lot of the value lies in the data itself, yeah? A lot of scientists about, social scientists, political scientists about data, and the platform economy show data is the new gold, the new oil of the economy. But the farmers have to make the big investments. They are the producers of the data, yeah? So are we moving to a kind of surveillance farm, in the words of Klaus, where all kinds of people, except the farmer, are nudging the farmer what to do, yeah? And food traders know exactly the harvest coming up from the farmers, having an edge in negotiations, price negotiations. These are risks which are there, yeah? The one case is of John Deere. Those tractors are sealed, yeah, digitally locked. So farmers normally can repair their tractors. They cannot do that. It's all locked, yeah, digitally. They need a stick with a code from the help desk somewhere in the city. Yeah, so when they're stuck in the middle of the prairie in the US, after the help desk has closed, yeah, and then they are standing there and they cannot do anything, yeah. And it might seem like science fiction, but John Deere can remotely disable and stop the combines they have sold to any farmer, yeah? Maybe a few years ago, or maybe now it seems science fiction, but for example, the Russians, when they occupied Ukraine, I did a lot of research in that area, they stole quite a lot of combines, and then those John Deere combines, they were digitally stopped, so they couldn't be used anymore. Now, you think in this case, nice, maybe, but it might be a bit scary that someone in an office somewhere can just lock down tractors in other part of the world, yeah? And what if it would be hacked, yeah? So there are problems around data capture and surveillance. Also about workers, finally about sustainability. Yeah, will digital technologies, I pose it more as a question in terms of time, Will it be a solution for the many environmental challenges? Would it be a kind of utopia like this, like technology nicely coinciding with nature, small scale, biodiversity, all kinds of crops? Or is it more like this, yeah? Increased monoculture and destruction. Thank you.